in the way we are approaching, we are treating multilateralism. And national level actions will become more and more important. And the new kind of governance for multilateral agreements will rely on national actions being taken and putting them together. So national SD strategies, I think, are of prime importance, and I'm happy to tell you that the German government is relaunching its NSDS right in time to present the result in the Rio conference. And of course, the picture here shows you a piece of art, and it's a symbol for the mistrust that is, of course, aired against the concept of green economy. Will it be another economy with these guys who are doing their job without getting people involved and with melting down the financial architecture of the world in 2008? So this mistrust is there, and we have to deal with this. And there's also mistrust against the green race, because a green economy in the state of the world as it is means that there is competition. And this competition between countries, between regulations, between companies, refers to the green markets of the future. So there's a green race. And races have it that some markets, some people, some companies are the winners and some of the losers. So the point here is any green economy does only make sense if we manage to reach new coalitions that define success as the success of my partner and not mine alone. Measurement. When it comes to green economy, and in 2 years from now, I predict the measurement of the sustainable consumption and production patterns, SAP, will play a major role. That's the aspect of food. Food is being willingly wasted. I don't know the figure for Asia, and I have only kind of anecdotal reference to the figure in Europe and in Germany. But it seems that we are throwing away 40% of the food that is being produced. Throwing away, meaning wasting the food. I'm not talking about health problems of the people. I'm not talking about overconsumption. I'm just talking about throwing food away in a world that desperately needs food. And of course, I'm talking about unwillingly caused kind of collateral damages. And I brought you the picture here down here. I hope you can see it from over there. That's a picture that I took from the website Home, photography by Chris Jordan. It's an albatross, a young albatross, was being fed by his parents with what they found in the ocean. Unfortunately, it was rubbish, plastic rubbish, and the bird died. So this is kind of a result, the legacy of the way we're consuming. And I predict again, SCP will play a major role, together with the question, and it really is a question, whether we can succeed or whether not in arranging for the planet in organic farming. At the end of the day, one thing is clear: there is no option in just cloning Mother Earth. We have to deal with this one planet and with these 9 billion of people and with their legitimized right to food. Again, measurement and growth. The metrics of growth are under discussion. The French president and Mrs. Merkel agreed that a joint commission has to come up with some work following the book of Mr. Stiglitz, the Nobel laureate Stiglitz, Mr. Fitoussi and Zen, on the question what comes beyond the GDP. How can we measure prosperity? I'm happy to have the pleasure to have another lecture this afternoon. But so far here, French colleagues and partly myself, we are involved in coming up with a set of indicators that would be used for this beyond GDP concept. So there's lots of talk in Europe about this. One book I should emphasize by Tim Jackson, UK author. He wrote the book Prosperity Without Growth. The story behind it is, he says, there is already growth without prosperity. We're producing growth, but we are not enriching the people with prosperity. So he just turns it around and said, well, there might be a way for prosperity without growth. And again, the national sustainable development strategies in Europe come into play, because there is the place where you have to negotiate the demography and the environment, the population and the needs of the people and the environment. And as you know, demography in Europe, that means for most of the countries, not for all, for most of them, a decline in population and aging society and stuff, silver generation and all these things. So the question how to measure prosperity comes up there again. The last point that I would like to raise is the KPI. Stands for Key Performance Indicators. And that has something to do with the corporate community and the private sector. We see, or I personally see it as a progress, that the private sector now in Europe has an agreed set of key performance indicators on social, environment, and governance. These are the three areas covered by key KPIs. And the financial market is increasingly using the KPIs to rate the performance of companies. I think that's a good thing, and that really brings us forward in terms of the metrics of sustainability. At the end of the day, what we have to do is some kind of systemic engineering. It's good to have windmills. It's good to site them offshore. But then what you have, it's a German learning, what you have to have is a grid connection. You have to have smart grids, engineered supply of electricity, and all this together with e-mobility in the streets, with the towns and cities producing electricity instead of only using it. This brings you forward, and that's why I think the systemic engineering is so important. It's not measurable in that sense, but you can simply take it from here that this is what at the end of the day has to be established. On the agenda is also the metrics in the financial architecture. 2 years ago, we all looked into an abyss of financial meltdown of the pretty much whole international financial system. So now we are asking ourselves, what could we possibly do to avoid these kinds of meltdowns and to finance the long term? That's, by the way, why I asked this morning, what about the long-term investments? Long-term investments need a certain form of stability, otherwise they don't work.